Hey there, RC Girl here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make your very own functioning RC driver figure, complete with turning head and turning steering wheel. So awesome. I'm going to show you guys how to 3D print one from home. If you don't have a printer, no problem. A couple options to get one delivered directly to your door. If you're not an artist, no worries. I'm going to share with you guys some super simple human figure painting techniques. We're going to assemble it with some micro servos, program it in our transmitters. I'm going to walk through everything to get a functioning RC driver in your next rig. Let's take it away. So first off, we need our driver. All these drivers are designed by Knight Customs. You can head on over to his website. I'll put a link in the description box below to download your driver figure of choice. He has a lot of head and vehicle options. This RC Girl driver is actually designed to fit the Axial SCX 10.3 CJ7, but it'll also work in other 1/10 scale rigs, and you can actually size it to your vehicle of choice, including the SCX6 and this Mashigan. Once downloaded, unzip the folder and you're going to see a couple STL files for the head, torso, arms, and accessory like the steering wheel and head post. What's great is that Knight Customs already has pre-sliced G-code for printing in matte PLA filament. This includes suggested printing angles and supports already set for you, and you can send them directly to your Bamboo or Prusa printers. I'm going to be printing on the Bamboo Lab P1S, and this actually fits on the build plate of the A1 Mini just fine. I print at a 0.12 millimeter resolution, and it takes about 5 to 6 hours for the complete print. It comes out in really great quality. However, you can also print these on a resin printer with a lot finer detail. I actually got rid of my resin printer a few years ago, given all the chemicals. It was a little bit too much, so I had these printed especially for this project by PCBWay, who is sponsoring this video. So thank you to them for sending out these parts. PCBWay is an online 3D printing and PCB company. You can upload your files directly to their website, select from their many materials. In this case, I had these printed in resin. They will print and ship your files, send them directly to your door. In addition to printing for this project, I actually used them to batch print driver heads for the figures I sell in my Etsy shop. I wanted the heads to be really smooth and detailed. PCBWay makes it easy whether you need single prototypes or batch printing a production run. They'll provide instant quotes, ship worldwide, and offer a wide range of materials with industrial grade quality. I will put a link to their website in the description box below. Thank you to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. Once we have the driver figure, we are going to paint it up before we assemble it. I'm definitely not an artist, but I will share with you a few basic painting tips to get you a nice looking figure like this. You will want to clean up your prints and smooth them out as much as possible, so a sanding block or fine sandpaper and some files can do the job. We are going to sand off and smooth any support attachment points and file down any nubs to have a nice smooth surface for our paint. Once they've been cleaned up as best as possible, I spray it down with isopropyl alcohol or soapy water to remove any debris and oils. And then next we're going to prime it to help with paint adhering. I like to use the Tamiya Fine Gray Primer. It comes out really fine sprayed, as the name suggests, and dries really quickly. It can even be sanded if you need. And then now for the fun part, the painting. I wanted a realistic, human-like look for the RC Girl driver. I'm going to be using acrylic paints for this, which are water-based, and a small angled detail brush. You'll need some hobby-grade acrylic paints and some paint brushes. Primary colors, as well as white and black, can be mixed to give you lots of different skin shades and colors for the clothing. So you don't need an extensive paint set, but a nice hobby grade one like this will give you lots of options. I started with the black on my shirt with a few coats of the Tamiya black. Nice pigmented paint. It's a little bit glossy, but we're going to be adding a matte top coat at the end, so no worries. For my jeans, I started with a darker base coat of blue. I added some white to it to get a lighter shade of blue and used a dry brushing technique. Dry brushing is where you apply paint to your paintbrush. Then you're actually going to brush much of it off before applying it to the jeans. This is going to give you a nice accent color. You're not really applying too much paint here, just accenting. This is going to be great for adding shading if you want to get a jean type of look. Next, for the skin, to get skin tones, this is really going to make your driver look realistic or toy-like. So to get skin tones, we're actually going to be mixing primary colors red, yellow, and blue into white. For lighter skin tones, you're going to add a little bit more white and yellow, and for darker, you're going to add a little bit more red and blue. After a couple coats of the skin tone, I did some dry brushing again with the actual blush that I wear on my face. Instead of a flat skin tone, it adds some nice accents, bring the figure to life. You can also do this with acrylic paints, a light pink or a light red. When painting, it's good to have a reference photo to look back on. I found these shoes online and used them to match colors. For the base coat on the hair, I used a mix of yellow and tan colors and then another type of paint called a wash. Washes are essentially thin, watered down paint designed to settle into crevices, creating shadow and depth. Perfect for giving a sandy, highlighted hair look. I then mixed white, blue, and yellow to get teal for my baseball cap. Then to get all the fine details on the head, I used a finer brush to paint my sunnies brown. I painted my teeth white and added a little red to the skin tone to paint the lips. The only place that I used oil-based paint was for the lenses of my sunglasses, where I wanted to mimic a shiny gold mirror type finish. Enamels typically take longer to dry, and your brushes will need to be rinsed and cleaned with mineral spirits instead of water. Here you can use a glossy clear top coat for the lenses. I didn't have any, so I actually used a nail polish top coat here. Don't judge me. I told you I'm not a professional, but I think it turned out really nice. Once we have everything painted the color we want, I gave it a nice, consistent, even top coat with a matte clear from Tamiya. Now we have our driver figure painted. I added some accents with my vinyl cutter, adding my RC Girl logo to the shirt like I wear on my channel and also to the baseball cap. Our driver figure is ready to assemble. For this part, you're gonna need some string and some medium CA glue. The instructions actually say to use servo cable. I don't have that. I'm using this white nylon string. The ends fray when you cut them, so it's not ideal. I just seal the ends with CA or super glue, and when it's dry, cut it at a 45-degree angle. We are ready to thread it through our limbs. Starting with the back shoulder, we're gonna thread the string through the back here, then through the shoulder, the forearms, down to the tiny hand. When the string pops out of the hand hole, I apply a dot of medium CA, let it settle in the hole and wait till it's dry. And since these are moving parts, I apply a little bit of silicone grease with a cotton bud to each of the joints. Pull the string so the joints are reasonably secure in the pockets and hold the string along the back shoulder while applying some CA to the strand. I'm generous here with the CA, but make sure it doesn't drip into the socket, and glue your limbs together. Snip the end and we have ourselves an articulating arm. We're gonna go ahead and do the same process for the other arm, and we have ourselves an articulating driver. So cool, so nerdy. Now all that's left is to install our servos to bring our driver figure to life. Here it's recommended to use two high-tech HS55 feather servos. I will put a link to these in the description box below, and you will also need a servo Y splitter. One servo is going to turn our head and one is going to move the steering wheel. The servos come with tiny horn options. We're going to be using a couple of them. We also have a 3D printed test seat, a steering wheel, and head post. These are all files included in the Night Customs driver STL download. Thanks to PCBWay for printing these for me. Depending on what RC you put this in, it's a good idea to set it all up first and then install it in your rig. For this, we need the electronics for the car, so a speed control and battery, and at least a 3-channel receiver, as well as a programmable transmitter that allows for multiple independent steering controls. Most RTR transmitters likely will not have the ability to do this. I'm using the Radiolink RC8X. Lots of programming options with this. How it's programmed is going to vary by transmitter, but I'll cover how I did it briefly with the RC8X. And how this is hooked up in the receiver. Channel 1 is going to be our normal vehicle steering. Channel 2 is our throttle. If you're limited, you could split channel 1 with a 3-servo Y splitter. However, you are stuck with the direction of the servo, and any endpoint adjustments will be made across all 3 servos. So ideally, you want a separate channel for the driver servos that can be programmed independently. For our test driver here, we're going to be plugging the Y splitter into channel 3, and then plug the tiny HS55 servos into the Y splitter. You're gonna want to power everything up so that the servos are centered before assembling and programming. Once everything's hooked up, we're going to attach the wheel to one of the servos. I just glued the wheel to the 4-prong horn included with the servo. I didn't have tiny enough screws, but that's also an option. I then screwed the servo into our test seat. The second servo used to control the head turning function is going to be glued in the back of our driver. I first attached the single prong servo horn to the driver head post, and then using some shoe glue or E6000, I glued on our driver head and then glued the servo in the back pocket of the driver. We're gonna let everything sit and dry. In the RC8X, we're going to go to the settings at the bottom left corner and then scroll down to steering mixing. We're going to hit the toggle switch at the top here so that mixing is turned on. Steering 1 is our vehicle steering, and then steering 2 is going to be set to channel 3 where our driver servos are plugged in. I also turn the steering down to 40% in each direction so our head and wheel don't turn as drastically. You don't want your arms going all the way around the wheel. If you need to center the head more, you can go into sub-trim and get the head pointing straight. Any of these trim and rate adjustments are going to apply to both servos. Once we're happy with the steering rates and settings, we're going to glue the hands to the wheel with hot glue or super glue. Make sure to find a good angle on the hand with good contact surface area with the wheel. And I add some medium super glue and let it fully dry. That is it for programming. Now you're ready to install your driver in your vehicle. It is going to vary how you install this in each of your rigs. I actually scaled this up 120% and installed a driver in my Mashigan. So that is how you print, paint, and install a moving driver in your RC. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Huge thank you to Night Customs for making these amazing 3D printed drivers. Huge thank you to PCBWay for sending out some really awesome 3D printed parts for this video and sponsoring this video, making it all possible. Huge thank you to my amazing community of patrons on Patreon for their monthly support. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, I'll see you later. So nerdy. Still love it.